Men often find themselves blindsided by a culture that hates authentic masculinity, and many have given in and succumbed to the ever-evolving culture and woke society. But not us. We are the Remnant, faithful Catholic men from 3 different generations who reach through the radio to tackle current events that challenge our wills and empower the practice of the Catholic faith through thought-provoking discernment and prayer. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed and bombarded, it's time to turn your radio up and join us for The Remnant on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Remnant on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my 2 wonderful friends, Stephen Thomas and Ray Haywood. I can't believe we're on episode number 5 now, I believe. So if you want to head back into our podcast archives on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, please do that so you can listen to all the different episodes we have. We have some wonderful topics that we've already covered and a few more that we're going to be covering in the next couple of weeks. But tonight, we're going to be talking about Catholic schools and the importance that Catholic schools play in, forming young people to go out into the world and live the Catholic faith boldly. So, Stephen, you being the Catholic school teacher on this, I'll turn it over to you and let you give us some of your wisdom.
All right. Thanks, Bill. I don't know about wisdom, but I'll do my best. So I love this topic for many reasons. But the 2 primary ones are the one that it is my home field, so to speak, as a Catholic educator, and particularly one that's in the classical model. I'm at a classical pilot school here in our diocese, and it's been uniquely challenging and uniquely rewarding. My second reason is that it's such a good topic, given last week's episode about Catholic education and its necessity towards accruing social capital for the church. And I mentioned in that episode that I read a book called Renewing Catholic Schools by Archbishop Aquila of the Denver Archdiocese. And in it, he goes over in brief the history of sort of what happened to Catholic schools. So I'll read a brief quote from that book to give you perspective. He writes, "Catholic schools no longer served as a place of refuge from a secular culture, as the decades following the Second Vatican Council initiated an experiment in increased openness to the world and the adoption of secular models in Catholic education. Catholic identity and traditional pedagogy were sidelined for more utilitarian goals of academic success and career preparation, with a precipitous decline in enrollment following. Turning our attention to the present, questions abound about the nature and effectiveness of Catholic education. Evaluating the religious state of teenagers and young adults throughout the country, sociologist Christian Smith summarized his research by stating that, quote, he cannot report that Catholic schooling and youth group participation have robust effects on emerging adult faith and practice, close quote. Smith's findings express concern of many parents who made great sacrifices to support their children through Catholic education, only to find that those children no longer practice their faith. Catholic schools face an identity crisis resulting from 50 years of experimentation and uncertainty, bringing us to nothing short of a calamity. Smith reports that between 1964 and 1984, 40% of American Catholic schools and 76% of Catholic elementary schools closed their doors, while those that remained open proved less well-grounded in the Catholic faith and therefore less capable of passing on a robust Catholicism to their students. So Catholic education sought to innovate, modernize, and in doing so, it abandoned its 2,000-year-long educational model, rooted in the classics, and it adopted secular teaching methods. And as we hear from a Catholic archbishop, which is no small deal, that it was a catastrophe, that school enrollment plummeted. Closures happened left and right nationally. Now, as we see throughout the West, the collapse of the Catholic school system has gone hand in hand with the spiritual poverty that Mother Teresa warned was more deadly than the material poverty that she witnessed in Calcutta. So what can we do? One of my intellectual heroes is the British philosopher Sir Roger Scruton. He once said in an interview that the postmodern believes he rarely finds things he loves. He always finds something gone wrong, something hateful even, and that you've got to mobilize against it. I believe to restore Catholic education, then, we must instead be more like Scruton's vision of how man ought to be, a man who looks around himself, finding things that he loves, and think, quote, well, those things are threatened. They're vulnerable, and I've got to protect them, close quote. Like St. Thomas Aquinas once said, wonder is the desire for knowledge. We have a wonderful heritage in our educational institutions as Catholics of grasping at the transcendent, where the genuine sense of delight and satisfaction can be found in pondering the mysterious questions of who God is, what is the nature of his being, and why he deemed to create us, to create all of the universe, all of creation. It's a humbling and awe-inspiring achievement in the pupil to ponder these things. And it's unique to our Catholic education. But our Catholic education needs to be properly fastened to its 2,000-year roots. With that, I'll like to hear from what you guys think.
Okay, so when Bill and Stephen and I were preparing for this episode, Stephen sent out an article for us to read. It was very helpful for me. I believe that this is very fitting where it fits into episode 4. We're talking about Catholic education. As parents, as men, we should understand that part of leading our family is to lead them within the faith and instill with them the foundational, the blocks that we build upon in life. So a couple of points that I pulled out of the article that Stephen sent. I'm going to read these points out to you. That few Catholic leaders take to heart that they're preparing our future generations of Catholics for the trials ahead. Another point, that many Catholic schools are forming lukewarm Catholics. Here's another, that many faculty are not themselves formed well in the faith, and that they need ongoing formation in their spiritual lives themselves. I call that adolescent in their faith. A lot of our administrators, our faculty, they've never, invested in their faith walk, in their faith journey since they were in Catholic school, if they were so lucky. And then there's this point that hit very close to my own home. And that's that many principals would like to hire young Catholics rich in the faith, but find their lack of teaching experience an imposition. So my oldest son, Nicholas, applied for a teaching job in a local Catholic high school here in our diocese. He had 2 spiritual fathers' referrals, and these referrals were mentioned to him in his first interview. The result of his 2 interviews was that he was told in an email that that they had picked a candidate with more teaching experience. This is exactly what this article shared with us. My well-formed son was passed over for lack of experience, meanwhile, rich and formed well in the faith. In my experience of hiring people in my professional life, I was always told by my mentors to invest in the person and that the task is secondary. I would like to suggest to every principal or person of authority in the hiring process who is listening along to ask as many questions on our Catholic faith as they do on the subject's task that the person is being interviewed for. For me, just as in any ministry that I'm involved in, handing on the importance of our deposit of faith and our sacraments should always be our first concern. Bill, what do you think?
My comments are going to be rather brief, but I want to think about and maybe challenge, just like you did, Ray, some of the teachers that are out there. when I think of my Catholic school experience, I think of a lot of the times that maybe I was unruly or misbehaving. One in particular comes to mind. When I was in seventh grade, I was goofing around with a few of my peers, and I ended up walking down the second grade corridor, and I reached up and I touched a paper mache leprechaun, disobeying my teacher's order to remain quiet and walk back to the classroom without any noise. And this teacher turned around and stormed back to where I was in the line and saw this little leprechaun dancing above my head, and she realized what I did. And so she, in a fit of anger, screamed at me and said, "Mr. Snyder, you're going to write a 250-word essay on why not to touch somebody else's leprechaun." And here I was, like, just thinking, excuse me, did I get that right? And I actually said that to her. "Are you sure you would like me to write a 250-word essay on why not to touch somebody else's leprechaun?" And instead of her saying, "No, I'd like you to write it on why you shouldn't disobey your teacher," she said, "Yes, write a 250-word essay on why not to touch somebody else's leprechaun." And so that's what I ended up doing. It became a creative writing assignment. I still think it's the best 250 words ever written to this date. But my point is that teachers, when you have an opportunity to give a student a teachable lesson, like, why you should be obedient, don't hand them a pointless exercise. And clearly this teacher's pride got in the way. So don't allow that to happen for you if you're out there teaching. And as a student, I would have learned a lot more, and I think the teacher would have learned a lot more, quite honestly, if she would have allowed that to happen. So that's just my couple of thoughts on it. And honestly, it's what I think about when I think about Catholic education, because that's how I was educated. So I know that we have to take a short break right now here on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network and the Remnant. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
AM 1270 Catholic Radio Charlotte on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network. On air, online, and on the new Carolina Catholic Radio mobile app. Get involved and connect. Learn, love, and live your faith. CarolinaCatholicRadio.org.
Today, many students go to college with numerous questions about their faith, yearning to know if the seed planted in them as a child is both true and practical. Using the miracle on the road to Emmaus as a model, young adult ministers conversed weekly for 3 months with college students about the most pressing questions they had about the Catholic faith. As they journeyed together virtually, something amazing happened. Doubts disappeared, fears faded, and Jesus revealed that He is still alive. Hearts Burning Within Us, the latest book from Patchwork Heart Ministry, is a result of that grace-infused conversation. It is the perfect back-to-school gift for recent high school graduates and current college students. Get your copy for them today at patchworkheart.org or by calling 424-704-3278. That's 424-704-3278.
Hello, my name is Ray Haywood, and I'm coming to you today to talk to you about the book that I wrote, Tools to Ready the Journey, A Father's Guide to a Faith-Filled Family. This book can be purchased anywhere, but you could also go to the website of trjfathersguide.com, where you will gain access to the resource documents, the chapter podcasts, as well as the social media platform links of Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This book has 2 audiences. The first audience is for the younger man. That's the title of the book, Tools to Ready the Journey. The second audience is for the older man. The subtitle of the book, A Father's Guide to a Faith-Filled Family. That's for us to find value in the tools and awarenesses that are shared and hand them on to that next generation of leading men. As men, we need to understand that we cannot do this journey alone. I hope that this scratches at you an awareness and ignites your heart to visit that website of trjfathersguide.com.
How's it going, Remnant listeners? This is your co-host, Stephen Thomas. Like you,
and all discerning men, I am often intrigued and provoked by what I see and what I hear about in the world today, and I wonder whether or not I can reconcile it to our Catholic faith. Now, my apostolate primarily is that of the Catholic school teacher, but I also write essays and reflections on topics that I believe are either noteworthy or important to the Catholic world today. My work can be found at Musings of a Young Mind. Just search it or put Musings of a Young Mind works.wordpress.com in your search bar. Thank you, and hail Christ the King. God bless.
Teachers that care, professors that care about you. Just an awesome experience all around.
There's peace here. There's encouragement here.
Faculty, everybody that works here, they really set you up for success.
I don't think I have ever felt as loved and as supported and as encouraged as I have at the Abbey.
There's something here that's underlying and intrinsic. There's like a spirit of love and community. And I think the spirit is God's presence here.
Belmont Abbey College, a world away, but close to home. Visit us at belmontabbeycollege.edu.
For Carolina Catholic Radio, this is a United States Congressional Update with Congressman Ralph Norman.
Hi, this is Ralph Norman, Congressman for South Carolina's 5th Congressional District. As many of you know by now, Marine Corporal Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Schiller was recently placed in pretrial confinement after gaining national attention for demanding accountability on the social media. I received countless calls from you, Americans, in support of Colonel Schiller. While we certainly respect the military chain of command, we needed to ensure that Colonel Schiller was receiving fair and just treatment. That's why I was pleased to join my colleagues in urging the U.S. Marine Corps to utilize the least restrictive form of housing while awaiting his court proceedings. Colonel Schiller has since been freed from the brig, and while the trial is ongoing, I want to thank you for contacting my office to share your concerns, and I will remind you that you are always welcome to reach out with any concern or if we can be of any help. For continuing information, you can follow me online at norman.house.gov or Facebook at repralphnorman.com. Thank you so much.
I'm Pam Cullen for Carolina Catholic Radio. This has been your U.S. Congressional Update with Congressman Ralph Norman.
Carolina Catholic Radio will be on the road all next week for our Catch the Spirit Fall Pledge Drive, featuring a 5-day live broadcast tour to showcase some of the parishes, ministries, and people that shine God's light on our diocese. Be sure to tell your family and friends to download the Carolina Catholic Radio app and click the Listen Now button to follow us each day. Our first stop will be a parish spotlight on St. Mark in Huntersville this Monday from 11 to 1 p.m., hosted by Elza Spady, Jean Whalen, and Kathleen Lewis. We look forward to you joining us for our Catch the Spirit Fall Pledge Drive and live broadcast tour all next week on Carolina Catholic Radio.
Welcome back to The Remnant on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Remnant. I'm here with Ray Haywood and Bill Snyder, and I'm Stephen Thomas. And I'm going to be opening up our second segment about our Saint of the Week, which is St. Thomas Aquinas. And St. Thomas Aquinas is famous for being a foundational figure of the philosophy of scholasticism, which was the prevailing philosophy of the medieval period. It is perhaps one of the Church's greatest treasures, for it teaches a way of knowledge, a way of coming to knowledge, rather, and the proper relationship between our faith and our sense of reason, our intellect, and our will. So we have faith and reason and intellect and will, and how those are related to each other. It was a great step towards reconciling man with his Creator. St. Thomas is credited with saying, "The things that we love tell us what we are. As discerning men, I believe this is the measure by which we are to examine ourselves. Do I love the right things? Do I love God? Do I love my family as I ought to? Our Lord said, you cannot serve two masters. You can only serve God, or you can serve Mammon. Men are the leaders of their families, and they are called to be leaders within their faith communities. We're responsible for the well-being of those around us, so we need to stay vigilant and reflect on our own selves often. Guys, what do you think about St. Thomas?
Awesome. Really, really. I love to hear your perspective, Stephen. Just terrific. So for myself, through belonging to the angelic warfare confraternity, I say prayers associated to St. Thomas Aquinas daily. Many years back, when Father Christian was assigned as a priest in my home parish of St. Thomas Aquinas, he encouraged many of his spiritual family to join the confraternity to help us daily with the virtue of chastity. There are two prayers that I say every day that I would like to share with all of you that can be found on the angelicwarfareconfraternity.org website. And it just so happens when I was looking this up that the prayers that Father Christian gave us to say each day that I've said since since that first day, it's probably 5-6 years since he brought us into this, is actually the opening and closing prayer on the website. So the opening prayer and it goes like this. This is beautiful stuff. Like, dear Jesus, I know that every perfect gift, and especially that of chastity, depends on the power of your providence. Without you, a mere creature can do nothing. Therefore, I beg you to defend by your grace the chastity and purity of my body and soul. And if I have ever imagined or sensed anything that could stain my chastity and purity, blot it out. Supreme Lord of my powers, that I may advance with a pure heart in your love and service, offering myself on the most pure altar of your divinity all the days of my life. Amen. What I get out of that prayer, what speaks to me, is blotted out. And many times when, this world is so filled with impurity, if something comes into view or if something comes into mind, the first thing I'll say is blot it out. And that the other prayer is the closing prayer you could easily find on that website. And it goes like this. Chosen lily of innocent, pure St. Thomas, who kept chaste the robe of baptism and became an angel in the flesh after being girded by two angels, I implore you to commend me to Jesus, the spotless Lamb, and to Mary, the Queen of Virgins, gentle protector of my purity. Ask them that I, who wear the holy sign of your victory over the flesh, may also share your purity. And after imitating you on earth, may I at last come to be crowned with you among the angels. Amen. What jumps out to me on that is, how St. Thomas is always there in that image of the angels coming to him and girding him. And the reason why the angels came to gird him is that St. Thomas Aquinas' mother, a countess, tried to dissuade him from entering the Dominican order because she hoped that St. Thomas would become a prominent political figure. And it goes on to say, when you look these things up, that his brothers locked him up in a tower for a whole year and tempted him with a prostitute, whom he struck and chased out with a fiery brand. And after that is when those two angels then appeared and girded him as a sign that God will always protect his purity. Isn't that an amazing thing? Think about that. Like, he's an angel in the flesh, St. Thomas. I hope that this scratches at you and you try to look at what I just shared. Bill?
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And I don't know how, quite honestly, this saint could ever be called a dumb ox, but that's what classmates and peers of his regarded him as. I mean, maybe because he was a little quiet, maybe because he was a big guy. but they thought he was kind of a dunce. And the reality is that, as you all can see, that St. Thomas is not only a incredible human being, but he is one of the most prolific and profound theologians in the Catholic Church. So much so that he's actually regarded as probably the foremost doctor of the church, which is a title given to him due to his prolific writing and insights contained in that writing. But that title, Dumb Ox, still overshadows him, years and years later. And so this kind of leads into my ReMENant challenge for the week. And that's very simply, think about those who are undervalued in your life, right? Because I think that St. Thomas was undervalued by his peers. So is there a way to lift up those who are undervalued? Maybe there's a coworker that you're looking at and seeing that somebody picks on, or somebody says that they, don't have worth or value in their, daily tasks at work. Maybe you're witnessing something like that. Find that person that isn't being valued and lift them up this week. And so that's my ReMENant challenge, guys. And Stephen, I'll toss it over to you for your ReMENant challenge.
All right, thanks, Bill. So to continue along with the theme of St. Thomas, I'm going to quote him again. Sorrow can be alleviated by a good sleep, a bath, and a glass of wine. In the modern world, everything can seem so frantic, and we can get busy with work, school, visiting relatives, etc. Burnout can sometimes seem right around the corner. We can be pulled in a million different directions, it seems. It's important that we learn to pause and give thanks to the Lord in all things. My challenge to you this week is to practice a responsible form of self-care at the end of the day. Personally, I like to watch a little TV or read a novel before I do night prayer and then call it a day. If we neglect ourselves, we leave ourselves vulnerable to temptation and occasions of sin. So men, be kind to yourselves. And Ray, we'll lead it off with you.
So my ReMENant challenge is centered around St. Thomas Aquinas as well, and the angelic warfare confraternity that is open to all single and married Catholic men and women who have received their confirmation. As Christ's faithful, we are called to lead chaste lives. Chastity, purity, is the virtue that properly directs the sexual appetite according to the will of God, in opposition of the vice of lust. I encourage all of you to visit the Angelic Warfare Confraternity.org website and consider joining. At minimum, commit to saying the opening and closing prayers daily. Rest assured, as you do, you'll become more aware of the sin and vice that surrounds all of us daily in the form of lust. Step close with me in awareness of the sins of the flesh. Listen to what our Blessed Mother revealed to Saint Jacinta at Fatima. This is from the Blessed Mother. More sinners will go to hell because of the sins of impurity than any other sin. Let that sink in. I hope that this awareness scratches at you and ignites your heart to work on the virtue of chastity daily. My prayer for you all is to blot it out. What do you think, Bill?
I think it's great. And Ray, Stephen, this has been a wonderful episode of The Remnant. I hope that you, listening, go back and listen to it again, because there's so much packed in here. I think we packed the Summa into this episode. Quite literally. So we're going to, leave it off. That's all the time we have for you today. But until next time, from all of us at The Remnant and the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, may God bless you and your family.
Thank you for joining The Remnant today. For more information about us, email theremnantshow@gmail.com. That's the ReMenant show@gmail.com.